Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, of course. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from user Equipment Turbulent 67 and says, my wife cannot get over the fact that my ex-wife is marrying a millionaire. Throwaway. I don't know what's gotten into my wife. When we met, I was still married to my ex-wife. I'm not proud about it, but my wife started at our job and we slept together after a party. This was about 6 years ago. My ex found out when she saw nudes on my phone. It broke her and ended our marriage. I married my wife a year later. Everything was fine and my children gradually forgiven me. And much of it was thanks to my ex, who insisted that I was still their father and that I loved my children. They never liked my wife, however, because they've overheard her, my daughter did, talking badly about how fat and old their mother was, and how she was no competition. Now my ex is happily engaged to a man who is very well off. My wife was depressed ever since she heard that, making comments about what he sees in her and how it wouldn't last. She has Googled everything about him. His net worth, property, social media accounts, and she doesn't stop talking about him. I got very wary and this last week she's been extra depressed and angry. Not sleeping and she cried several times. When she was finally taking a nap, I took her phone and saw that she has sent the new fiancé some flirtatious texts via Instagram and even one nude. He only answered the first DMs when she introduced herself, congratulated him about the engagement and told him that they were basically a family soon. When she was getting more flirtatious, he stopped answering and her DMs were left on scene. This was last week. The pictures. I called my ex-wife and she confirmed that her fiancé has been receiving these texts and they were embarrassed and unsure what to do, so they ignored her. I confronted my wife and she became very angry, saying that I have embarrassed her by talking to my ex. She was crying when I told her that my ex was the one who suggested that they just ignore her and not say anything. Isn't that better for her? She admitted that she sent these, but it was just because she felt my ex was a bitch that didn't deserve a fiancé like hers with a lot of money. My ex-wife would be living in a 19th century penthouse. She also told me that I was the one who driven her to this since she never felt she's won me completely. That I married her after my divorce was a fact. I made her insecure. I don't understand. I thought we were happy. She was happy. She always told me how she loved me. I feel guilty, like I've made her miserable and drove her to be this insecure, but at the same time, I'm very pissed. OP adds, I don't know if I need to put ages or if it is relevant. I'm 41, wife 33, ex-wife 43, fiancé 40 to 45, I'm not sure. Comments are going to be interesting on this one because it's, you rarely see people who come into a post and say that they cheated get any sympathy or actual advice, but as you know, he cheated, got caught, married the affair partner. In the end, he made his bed. But just focusing on the new wife's behavior for a second, that is some unhinged shit, right? The fact that she's been searching this guy up, researching everything about him, and still targeting the ex-wife, who's innocent in all of this, is just wild. And let's face it, if she was able to win the ex-wife's new partner, she absolutely would go with him as well. That's why she was sending nudes. But a commenter says to OP, so your mistress is upset that she bet on the wrong horse and has serious regrets. I'd re-examine the entire relationship once I find that she DM'd the new fiancé with nudes. Honestly, I'd probably tell her to pack up and leave and then apologize to my ex-wife for her behavior and wish my ex well. OP says she swore that she wasn't interested in him, just that she felt that my ex wasn't worth what she's getting, and that she, ex, has been smug and arrogant about it, so my wife thought she would give her a wake-up call. Her words. Not Oblivious says, I think it's very disturbing behavior that she helped to break up one marriage of this woman and tried to break up a second of this woman. There is definitely a deep-seated obsession and jealousy, as if she is in competition. Bad talking your ex is also a sign of this. I give your ex so much credit in the way she's handled your divorce and being able to help your relationship with your kids flourish. Many women in her shoes would find this very difficult, but also to have the presence of mind and the grace to ignore the same woman who helped destroy her marriage because she doesn't want to cause issues and embarrassment. Your ex is a saint, and I hope you appreciate her. Your wife needs help, and if I were you, I'd really think hard if she's actually a healthy partner for you. I mean, your kids don't like her, and that's got to be tense for you. She trash talks your ex, that's got to be difficult to deal with, and she basically attempted to cheat on you in a sick and twisted attempt to hurt your ex. Opie replied saying, I know that my ex is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met, both inside and out. I don't understand why my wife hates her. She never once blamed my wife for anything, and she was really helpful in making my family and friends not shun me and my wife. And as I said, it's thanks to her I still have the love of my children. Wraith Rose says this is exactly what cheating gets you. Choosing short-term validation and orgasms over real love, emotional labor, patience, and grace. Unless you realize why marrying her was a mistake, you're doomed to repeat this. Unless your only goal was to save face once you realize you took a nasty dump all over your first marriage. The reason she's turned into a banshee is because she wasn't with you out of a gape or real deep love. She was with you because it made her feel better about herself. Women who play these games will always be looking for outside sources of validation to fill the hole where their self-esteem should be. Otherwise, they wouldn't be fighting over sloppy seconds and prizes. They are called pick-me's and have warped self-esteem. They make reactionary choices for cheap validation and kibbles instead of retrospecting on what would really make them happy. Being above your first wife was really important to her, and now that fantasy bubble has popped because she found out she disgraced herself for an average guy. You made this bed. Opie says, I admit it was to save face. Marrying my wife. That's why I feel guilty now and not just outright pissed. I still love my ex even though I'm happy she is happy again. I regret what I did every day. I think my wife knows this. That's why I'm not as pissed as I should be. Generic says your problem is that you're a poor decision maker. You won't really be able to fix any of this until you understand why you make such poor decisions because frankly, marrying the woman you had an affair with only 1 year after your divorce tells me you didn't properly examine your motives that led to this whole mess. Opie says, when it came out what I did, nobody wanted to have anything to do with me, but for my wife who was there. So we got married. I probably wanted to save face and for it to not be meaningless, not to have cheated on someone I loved for nothing. J.M. Flynn says, I hope you didn't have children with this person. She obsessed with your ex. Did they have a relationship prior to your affair? She's absolutely fixated. Opie said no. She only met my ex a couple of times before the affair. You think she chose me because of my ex? Because my ex was very well liked in my office amongst my closest colleagues. We don't have children. So OP came in with what was titled a final update to what happened. They said, we're getting divorced. I had multiple conversations with my wife about what she did, but unfortunately, she doesn't seem to see how bad it is what she done. She says that she was never interested in my ex-fiancé and just wanted to make a point to herself more than anyone, and that she still believes she could take him if she wanted. She doesn't consider what she did cheating. It was a test. She said that if she really didn't love me, she would have left a long time ago, because she can get whoever she wants. I was speechless, hearing her rage and cry, but I was done. We don't have children and we have very few joint assets to divide. She will stay in the house until she can find a place to go, but then we are done. She is raging and calling me all sorts, but I guess I'm just so very tired and done now. Thanks for the wake-up call. I know I'm a shitty person, but maybe it's time for me to stop punishing myself for what I did. My wife was my constant reminder of the damage I'd done, and maybe deep down, I knew she was a bad person. But I felt I didn't deserve better because I'm a bad person too. Worse even. But maybe enough is enough. I need to stop punishing myself. I have 2 wonderful children, so maybe I'm not just bad. For any legal advice, remember, I'm not from wherever you come from, and I'm not disclosing my identity or location, so please don't bother me with legal advice. Smooner says, your wife's response makes me wonder if she knew your wife prior to meeting you. Kind of on the level of show you. I worry about your ex-wife's safety with the comments regarding I can steal him if I want to. She orchestrated your relationship from the start and was focused on destroying your wife at the time, or she realized she gets some weird ego/power boost from stealing married men, and now she's jealous of your ex because she didn't win. I would notify your ex-wife so she can place an OFP, order for protection, just in case. Opie says no. I don't think my wife knew my ex-wife. Her obsession started afterwards, and my guess is because she never got a reaction from my ex, who handled the situation maturely. Even her remarks about my ex's looks are some sort of ego boost, since everyone knows that my ex is very physically beautiful, and it hurt my wife very much to hear gossip about me trading down. I don't know if I did enough to make my wife feel better either, so her obsession may lie with me too, not only my wife. But I can't stay anymore, even if I admit I'm not a good person. Foolish says to the OP, I hope your ex finally finds some peace from this woman. Not enough she ruined her life once, had to try again for funsies again, just to prove it to herself. OP says she's doing fine and she's very happy with her life. Quick Store says your wife seems unhinged and may try something with your ex and her new fiance to prove she's better. I'd give them a heads up, so if they need to get a restraining order. She seems slightly obsessed with hurting your ex for some reason, which is super weird. OP says they have blocked her on all social media. My wife was hysterical and demanded to know what I have told them, but I think she's just embarrassed now and wants it to go away. Also, she wants to save our marriage. Nighthouse says good luck, but please don't try to get back with your ex. She deserves better. Sorry. And Opie says yeah, it won't happen. I find it absolutely scary that someone can have that. I know there's people out there, but people have that kind of mindset where they're just willing to go from relationship to relationship, destroying anything in their path basically. Absolutely wild. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from OddCelery123 from the Bridezillas subreddit, and it says, should I feel guilty for skipping my friend's pricey wedding? Hey Reddit, I need some opinions because I'm feeling a little lost. My friend Karen, 30 female, is getting married, and while I'm super happy for her, she's planning a huge destination wedding in the USA. We live in Europe. She keeps calling it her real wedding, even though there's supposed to be a smaller one in France where we can all go, but we're not invited. Yet. Here's the thing. Karen is really pushing for my boyfriend and me to go to the USA for this wedding. I've tried to explain to her that I just don't have that kind of money lying around. Her solution? Start paying for flights now in small installments and figure the rest out later. Honestly though, I just don't have the budget. And this would eat up my holidays for 2025, which is not really how I want to spend it. Don't get me wrong, I love her and would be so happy to see her on a big day, but is it me or are brides becoming total bridezillas with these crazy demands? Do we really have to change all our plans because it's their year? Why do so many weddings now feel like a massive financial burden on the guests? Karen doesn't seem to understand why I'm hesitating, and she keeps pushing us to get the tickets, and I'm starting to get frustrated. I even asked her about the second, more local celebration, but she brushed it off and kept insisting on the USA wedding. Am I being unreasonable for wanting to skip this whole destination thing? Grimer says a person who expects you to go into debt for their party is not your friend. If they really want you there, they should offer to support you financially, but it's unreasonable to expect your friends to fly across the globe for your pleasure and pay for themselves. If you plan a destination wedding, you either pay for the people you want there or expect some of them might not come. Conscious Survey says the bride is probably trying to ensure a room is free by getting X number of people to book. A friend would accept that you couldn't make it. Tell her to send you the info for the live stream so you can attend from home. Brides do not get a year, expensive hen/bachelorette parties and everything they want. They can hope for it, but unless they're paying everyone's expenses, it's just not doable for everyone. She needs to realize this. Since you said no, be prepared for her to ask you to be in the wedding party to try and get you to attend. Hold your ground with the no. No is a full answer. If you have to stress as nice as it would be to attend, she needs to be aware that not everybody has the means and the time to do this, and her constantly asking is going to hurt the friendship. B Queen B says, yes, I'm thinking there's a catch in this destination wedding as well. free hotel room plus a discount on food or something. The telling part is that OP hasn't been invited to the local wedding yet. Interesting thoughts on the free hotel room and discounts. I've heard that somewhere else before, but I think I've mentioned this before as well, that, one of my best friends went abroad for his wedding, and of course I was invited. But due to life at the time that was going on and finances, there was no way I would have been able to do it. So, I said this to him and he was like, yeah, absolutely fine. And then we just had a catch up later on in the year. And that was the end of it, really. Like the first commenter said, I think it's pretty wild to expect you to go into debt for that or to use up some of your other holidays in the year for it, especially if you've got a family or something like that. But 1.5 years later, OP came in with their update and said, "Hi everyone. About a year ago, I posted here about skipping my best friend's US destination wedding because it would have cost me and my boyfriend around $4,000 to $5,000 in whatever currency, which just wasn't financially realistic for us. I wanted to update because I genuinely don't know if I lost one of my closest friendships over this. For background, we all live in Paris. She's American, big family, wedding in a beautiful wine region near where her parents live. Very aesthetic, very Instagram, very curated. The groom is French. My boyfriend actually introduced them years ago. We weren't casual friends. We will see each other every other day friends. Wine nights, random weekday dinners, group chats constantly, trips, real life closeness. When the US wedding was announced, I did the math. Between flights, hotels, activities, boat day, wine tours, etc., it would have been close to $4,000 to $5,000 for us if we stayed a week. That's a huge amount of money for us, and the entire Paris friend group felt the same. No one here has family in the US to combine it with. Before the US wedding, she came to us with a big bouquet and a bottle of wine and asked us to be bridesmaid and groomsman. It was filmed. Very emotional, very moment. The thing is, I had already told her it was almost impossible for us to go. It felt like being emotionally cornered on camera. We didn't say no in that moment because how do you? It was awkward. But a few days later I met her alone and told her clearly we couldn't commit because of money. We wouldn't be able to do travel or do anything else that year if we went. She brushed it off. Yeah, I know. But something shifted. Important detail. Before the US wedding, we organized and fully paid for a Portugal stag/hen weekend for both of them. It was amazing. We put effort, money, time into celebrating them. So it's not like we didn't show up in other ways. Then 2 months later came the small French wedding. Yes, we got the invite. It was beautiful, intimate, so fun. But she was different. Distant, polite, surface level. Not the person I used to sit with for hours talking about everything. Now it's been about 6 to 7 months since that wedding. I've maybe seen her 5 times. Every time the group tries to meet, she makes excuses or insists we come all the way to their place, 45 minutes outside of Paris, instead of just meeting centrally where all of us live. It feels like a subtle barrier. Meanwhile, she messages my boyfriend weekly for work advice. Let's meet soon texts. Professional warmth. But with me, it's cold. How's work? How's life? End the conversation. I've tried reaching out. A few let's get a coffee and chat messages. Always, yes, soon, but it never happens. After a while, I stopped chasing. And I can't help but feel like I didn't fit into the wedding storyline she imagined. The American bridesmaids flew in, the Instagram content happened, the dream aesthetic was fulfilled. The Paris girls didn't. Did we get quietly downgraded? I don't know if she constantly resents us for not going or if weddings just reorganize people's emotional priorities, but it feels like I lost someone who used to be one of my closest friends, and that makes me really sad. Am I overthinking this? Did I underestimate how much not going would hurt her, or is this just what happens when expectations don't match reality? Know Anything asks, what is the point of having 2 weddings if not to allow people to attend one or the other? Chicago says, to be the center of attention twice, of course. Commenter says, she consciously resents you at least. I think she's probably staying so friendly with your husband just to rub it in how distant and disappointed she is with you now. She's pissed that you didn't do your part to make her Insta-worthy wedding your top priority. Let that friendship go. She proved herself to be a shallow, mean girl. Stop reaching out. Stop including her in your group get-togethers. Just stop. She loves that you're chasing her and she's not done punishing you Paris girls for not going into debt for a wedding. Fuck that shit. Quifa says, oh god, you're right. I've seen that tactic and it's only the worst people who use it. Like they're just the absolute worst. Gross, gross, gross. The best path forward, OP, is to simply ignore it. And I know that is really immature and petty, but nothing pisses off an emotional manipulator more than not noticing their attempts to manipulate you. The second commenter on that update, I think they had it spot on, didn't they? Well, for me anyway. That she was staying friendly with husband just to rub it in how distant and disappointed she is with you now, punishing you. Yeah, and I absolutely agree. Cut that shit off. What's the point? And I can almost guarantee, even if you do cut her off and go silent for X amount of months, eventually she will get in contact with you and maybe mention meeting up for a coffee or something like that. And then when you arrange it, then go, oh no, sorry, I can't make it again. And then try and, get you back on the hook if you like. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Don't Care Throwaway and says, my 23 female boyfriend, 23 male of 1 year is bad at everything, and it's making me lose respect for him. Okay, so I'm going crazy in my head here because I don't know if I'm just the world's hugest bitch or what. Basically, my boyfriend, let's call him Steve, is just not good at doing anything. Wait, that's not true. He's good at outdoorsy stuff and is apparently pretty good at his job in catering. Aside from that, for example, I feel like I can't do anything with him that involves any skill or is even slightly competitive because 1, he's a sore loser, and 2, he never wins. When I stayed with his family over Christmas, they had a Scrabble board, and because it was snowy and boring, of course I tried to pass the time playing Scrabble with him. And I'm not even a good Scrabble player, and I still crushed him every game. Eventually, after a few, I just couldn't play anymore because I had to spend like 10 minutes after every game making him feel better about himself. After giving up on Scrabble, we switched to playing Sorry. We had to stop that too because I couldn't handle the mental toll of continuously beating him at Sorry. Another time we went to a board game night with some friends and he couldn't understand the rules of most of the board games and afterwards vented to me about how stupid the games were and why there was no point having rules so complicated no one could grasp them. He was the only one who couldn't grasp them. Other times we'd play casual stuff like air hockey or foosball, which I didn't think even required any strategy other than spinning the plastic dudes really fast, and he'd still lose every time and get upset about it. I don't care about winning, I just want to have fun, and it feels like it's impossible to have fun because playing anything with him feels like playing against a goddamn 5-year-old. But wait, this thread isn't entitled, My Boyfriend is Terrible at Games. So here's some other stuff. His internet stopped working a while back, so he called me and I told him to use his mobile data to download the troubleshooting manual for his router and see if he could fix it. He didn't manage, so I went to his place later and found he downloaded the manual for the wrong router. It wasn't even the right brand. I ended up fixing his problem, and then he ranted to me about how all these router manufacturers make their manuals so hard to use, like there's some sort of deliberate conspiracy to keep everyone in perpetual confusion unless they're a genius. I'm not a genius, I'm just capable of following simple, written instructions. Also, he wants to go back to school to do a master's degree, but he needs to do some prereqs, including a math unit, where he's struggling with a lot of the material. But as far as I can tell, it's all stuff he learned in high school. Lately, he's been posting Facebook updates about how hard it is to learn logarithms. My school covered logarithms in grade 9, and even though I can't remember how to do them off the top of my head, I don't recall them being particularly hard at the time. And aside from that, I'm getting tired of being expected to be sympathetic when increasingly I just want to yell, well, maybe if you weren't such a dumbass. But even if I hint that maybe he should be able to deal with his own emotions. Example, honey, I know you couldn't get the pizza dough the shape you wanted, but it's not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, right? I get accused of being unsympathetic to his feelings. Well, what about my feelings that I don't want constant rolling coverage of every tiny thing that bothers you? But he's also an incredibly sweet, hardworking person who treats me well, and his boss and co-workers all say he doesn't just work hard but is actually really competent at his job, and he did pretty well in high school. and he's lived on his own since he was 16 and kept himself alive the whole time, and no one else has ever said or hinted to me, gee, your boyfriend is kind of a dumbass. So what the fuck? Is it me? Am I the crazy one? Am I a bitch? It doesn't sound like him being, air quotes, bad at everything is the actual problem here. It's the fact that when he does lose or fail or whatever he does, he acts like a 5-year-old, and that's the exhausting thing. You know, it must be absolutely frustrating to see that, you play a board game with him and then he loses his shit at the end of it or sulks or whatever he does. And then you're having to manage his feelings afterwards, which must be exhausting, right? And there was quite a few comments saying basically the same thing about how exhausting that must be. And it doesn't sound like, him being bad at things is the actual issue. It's the way that he's dealing with them afterwards. But a couple of months later, OP does come in with an update and says, I'll save you some scrolling. We broke up. And then says, this is pretty long and rambling and probably not even relevant, but typing it out helps me sort it out in my head. So you might as well all come along for the ride. Some more background. My ex graduated with a degree in biomedicine last year, but never actually looked for work in his field. As far as I know, this didn't strike me as a problem at first, since he's always taken care of himself just fine, and he never seemed that enthusiastic about his degree anyway. I spent several years after high school working odd jobs while I figured out what to do with my life. Most of the way through nursing school now, so who am I to judge, right? But gradually, I just got a more and more sinking feeling about things. Mostly because he kept talking about how he wanted to get a PhD and become a professor. And I felt professorship was a pretty optimistic goal for even the most brilliant of students. But how do you tell your boyfriend that you think their dreams are wildly unrealistic? So he decided he was going back for his master's. Cool. After I posted the original thread, I realized I'd never really spoken to him about his negativity while we're both calm. So I sat him down one day and told him that while I was always going to be there for him in times of real distress, I couldn't take all this complaining anymore. About his co-workers, about my housemates, about his housemates, about losing at games, about the train system, about math, about arts majors. Apparently they all work at Starbucks. The one time I pointed out the irony of this, he went real quiet and later told me I hurt his feelings and to not strike such low blows in the future. Yes, I missed the hell of a red flag. I told him it was exhausting to constantly have to attend one crisis or the other, and that perhaps he could benefit from seeing a therapist. In addition to everything else, he's also had depression on and off, and I figured it was a good chance to learn better coping skills. Well, that didn't go over well at all. He immediately accused me of not caring about his feelings and that he should be able to say whatever he wanted to me, and psychologists just want to give you happy pills to make you think like everyone else. When I told him psychologists aren't licensed to prescribe medication, he went silent for a while and said it doesn't matter. They still want to convince you it's fine to be a loser and everything's okay with you. I asked him if he thought he was a loser, and he said he doesn't think he's a loser. He just thinks it's important to stay aware of your flaws and punish yourself when you mess up, which is why he runs so much. What? At this point, I ended the conversation because I didn't know what the fuck to say. The other thing that had been bothering me progressively more is that he's currently taking units so he can start his master's next semester. But it struck me as kind of weird that he had to take the math and science prereqs considering he already has a degree in biomedicine. I'm pretty sure he graduated. He has a photo of himself in his gown on Facebook, but every time I tried to ask, he'd hand wave it away like he was hiding something. All the problems in our relationship, this was the only one that made me feel like I might be nuts, because for all I know, there was a perfectly simple explanation, but why the evasiveness? Anyway, reading back everything I wrote feels super weird because there's a lot of crazy shit and it's like, well, sure that happened, but it wasn't like that. But maybe it was. After my failed attempt at talking, I felt like a giant dumbass for not realizing the relationship was doomed from the start. But I was dreading actually breaking up with him until the boat ride. So in my town, there's a few places you can hire a little sailboat for about an hour and sail around on the water in the summer. Fun couples activity, right? Before the horrible talk, we made plans to do this, and he didn't know I was going to break up with him. And I was still clinging to the hope of fixing our relationship. So we went sailing. All went well for about 10 minutes, until we had to turn the boat, and of course turning a sailboat can be tricky if you've never done it before. As we're trying and failing to turn the boat, I can see him getting more and more agitated, and I try to lighten the mood by joking about our struggles. And he replies with something like, "Oh sure, it's fine to be shitty at things. Who needs standards?" And I should have known not to expect to be good at sailing. I tell him there's no reason he needs to be good at something, we're just doing it for fun, to just try and enjoy the activity. Something that I'm sick of saying and he's evidently sick of hearing, because it sets him off on one of his rants about how he can't do anything right and people who don't care how well they do are dumbasses. Everyone is a dumbass. I just want him to be happy with being a dumbass. The boat is stupid, sailboats are stupid, our town is unreasonably windy, etc. After that, he's too upset to talk and snaps at me every time I told him to hold a rope or whatever. All because he had trouble turning a fucking hire boat. So I turned to him and yelled, "You're dumped," jumped into the water and swam back to the shore. Just kidding. I only did that in my imagination. I broke up with him a couple of days later. There, that absolutely sounds exhausting, listening to that last rant from him about everyone's a dumbass, etc. And then go into my town is unreasonably windy. What the fuck? Bloody hell. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for doing these things. I can't express how much it really does help, so thank you. And I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.